In this video, I'm going to be making praline pecans. This is from the December 2005 edition of Southern Living magazine. And for this recipe, you only need 6 ingredients, which I think is great. You need 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, 3/4 cup firmly packed brown sugar, 1/2 cup of butter, which is 1 stick, 1/2 cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of corn syrup, which I've measured out in here, and then you need 5 cups of toasted pecan halves. So it was cheaper for us to buy the 8 cup at Walmart than it was to add up get the 5 cups another way, because they have different size bags. So I have already measured those out and I put them in this pan because you have to toast them. So we will lightly toast them in here. Make sure you don't burn them. They will burn easy, so don't leave them sitting there. Just make sure that you're take something like this and just flip them like this constantly. And if you start to smell them at all, then it's probably time for them to come off. So the first thing you do is you need a saucepan, and you're going to put your butter and both of your sugars in your saucepan like this. And then we're going to move this to the stove, and we're going to bring it to a boil over medium heat, stirring constantly. You're going to stir it for 7 to 8 minutes, or until a candy thermometer reads 234 degrees. So we do have a candy thermometer, but if you don't, just make sure that you stir it. I would go the full 8 minutes and stir it. So we're going to get this melted and do that, and we're going to toast our pecans, and then we'll be back. Okay, I have a slight correction. First, you want a bigger pan, which I should have read the directions. And you want to add your first 5 ingredients. So instead of just adding the sugars and the butter, go ahead and add your corn syrup, which you can do like this, and your milk as well. And that is what you need to get boiling. I tell you what, I told Kevin when I was in home ec, my home ec teacher, her biggest rule was to always read through the entire recipe before you start. And I've said that before too. Yes, I mean, that's just one of those golden rules of cooking, is read through the entire recipe. And I've never learned my lesson with that, and so that's why I have to make corrections sometimes. So you just want to stir this and get it boiling. This is boiling. I'm going to move it over here. The candy thermometer reads the correct temperature. I'm going to move it out. And then you want to take your pecans and stir these in. And it says vigorously stir them in. Be careful though. I would definitely recommend a pan that has high sides like this one, because if you get that on your arm, you're gonna scald your arm.
Your little spoon.
I have a cookie sheet. You can use wax paper if you have wax paper. I have a cookie sheet with parchment paper. The reason, if you can put the wax paper or parchment paper directly on your counter if you want. I'm putting it on a cookie sheet because that way I can move it around, and I don't have to have it taken up my counter space all day. But then you want to pour this out, and I'm going to move it to where it's only 1 layer. So I'm going to move it like this and try to get it into 1 layer. As best you can. You're never going to be able to get them all unstuck, but you do have some room to work with here. It says let stand for 20 minutes or until firm. And then we're going to break the praline coated pecans apart, store in airtight container at room temperature for up to 1 week. You can freeze in an airtight container or a Ziploc freezer bag for up to 1 month. This is the kind of thing though that I like to give away as gifts. So once I break this apart, I'll actually be putting it into some real pretty tins and giving it to different people since it makes so many. So these have been sitting, they've been sitting for a while, to be honest. You only have to let them sit for 20 minutes. I've probably let them sit for about, I don't know, an hour. But you want to, at this point, just break them apart. And like this, just break them apart into pieces. And like I said, because I like to give them out as gifts, I will put them in tins. You don't have to have great big tins like this. I have smaller tins. But this is something that it's just supposed to be a little special treat for you or your company or something to take to somebody's house. But
how firm are they? They're not like brittle?
No, it feels like, it feels grainy like sandy sugar. It feels, you know what I mean by that?
So they're not hard, they're easy to break up.
Oh, very, very, yes, look at that. I mean, very, very easy to break up. So I'm going to put most of this in this tin, and if I need another tin, I have plenty of tins, and then Kevin and I are gonna give it a try. So this recipe, like I said, it is from the December 2005 edition, and look at that cake that's on the cover. Doesn't that look glorious? It is a red velvet. I've already have a recipe for red velvet on the channel though, so I'm sure it's good. But these pecan praline pecans, it says makes about 8 cups, prep time is 5 minutes, cook time is 15 minutes, and then you stand for 20 minutes. So for me, this makes a perfect gift to give to somebody. And I already have a recipe on the channel of my own pecans that I've made for years and years, and they're cinnamon pecans, and you actually have to bake those. This is, instead of baking, you're cooking stuff on the stove, so you're you do have a little,
you're heating them.
To me, this is a little bit more involved than my recipe, but it still wasn't hard.
But yours has cinnamon, these don't.
Right, these don't have any cinnamon.
These are just gonna be like sugar pecans, basically.
Yes. Which, that's why they look so good.
That is really good. I'll tell you what, toasting a pecan really brings out the flavor. You did the same thing I just did.
What? Get a piece with the big, yeah, I want a piece of that sugar.
Just the sugar itself is like this grainy, brown sugary kind of texture. But then you eat it with the pecan, you get a really sweet pecan. This is excellent.
That's incredible and dangerous.
Dangerous because you're gonna eat a lot of them.
You're gonna eat a lot. And the pecans, they're not hard.
No.
Where
good texture.
I'm sure where you toast them and then you're putting them in that soft, hot sugar, it did soften them slightly, so they're not hard at all.
No, because the ones you make are a little crunchy.
Yeah,
not hard, just
no,
crunchy.
but they are crunchy. You're right.
Yeah.
No, it has those have a crunchy layer of sugar, whereas this is a soft, gritty
almost
sugar.
like fudge.
Oh yeah, that texture. Yeah. It's
I think if you like cinnamon, do the other recipe. If you don't like cinnamon necessarily, try this because I think there's something sweet. These are really good too. So either one of them are basically the same amount as far as work goes.
Yes. If I piqued your interest in the other pecans, I'll put the link in the description below so you can click on it. I do think it's easier to make those because you're just mixing some stuff up in a bowl by hand and you're just putting it on a cookie sheet and you're throwing it into the oven. This is something you do have to cook on the stove, but it's a completely different texture, flavor, everything.
You're right,
it's
because
just
you have to
totally
get
different
the right
things.
temperature of this, the right timing, and all that stuff.
Yes.
Or the sugar.
So
mixture will
if
be
you're
hard.
not good at stuff like that, if you're not good at like waiting the 7 to 8 minutes, if you don't feel like you can do that, you can definitely do that other recipe because you literally do nothing. But these are delicious. I would be proud to give these to anyone as a gift or keep myself to eat.
Right.
So I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.